Imagine a world where you are being expected to perform day in and day out under the eyes of millions. Now imagine making a mistake and it is being captured, shared, and commented on by thousands of people who don't even know who you really are. For athletes, this is their reality every single day. My name is Ryan, and today we're going to be breaking down the media's role in shaping society's perception of athletes' mental health. In this presentation, we will be looking at mental health in sports, societal pressure, and case studies of some of your favorite athletes and what they might have gone through in their everyday lives. By the end of this presentation, you will have learned about athlete struggles that you might not have been aware of before, the media's response to said struggles, and I will be showing you some ideas of how we could potentially mitigate and reinforce the overall conversation surrounding athletes and their mental health. Before we get into everything, we have to take a look at the definition of mental health. Mental health is a person's emotional, psychological, and social well-being, which affects how they think, feel, and act. Mental health is what allows people to function, and it is essential for resilience, ability to cope with feelings, and can make or break a person's overall quality of life. But, like I said, before we get into everything, we also have to take a look of the historical context surrounding mental health in sports. Back then in the ancient times with the Greek competitors during like the Olympic Games and stuff, they emphasized a balance between body and mind. But mental health issues were widely misunderstood, leading people to attribute them to supernatural causes, kind of like brujeria and stuff like that. Post-World War II, around 1960s, 1955, around there, sport psychology developed in the US and the world soon after. Now, in the 1990s and 1980s, or 1980s and 1990s, the conversation surrounding mental health became more open throughout society, but in the world of sports, athletes were seen as too strong to have emotions, leaving them unable to be vulnerable. Higher caliber athletes during the early 21st century started speaking out about their mental health issues. It is around this time where mental health is recognized as a crucial component of an athlete's psyche and physiological being. Now, present day, we're going to see the historical context of this now. Let's take a look at the role of media in shaping perceptions. Media plays a crucial role in influencing how society perceives athletes' mental health, often framing public narratives and shaping conversations surrounding the idea. Understanding this impact is essential in promoting a more accurate view of athletes' struggles and triumphs.
A lot of young men and some older men, and they're all looking to you to be their CEO, to be in charge of the football team. Because of all that, I don't have sympathy for him going public with, I got depressed. I suffered depression early in COVID to the point that I couldn't even go work out. Look, he's the quarterback of America's team. And you know and I know, this sport that you play, it is dog eat dog. It is no compassion, no quarter given on the football field. If you reveal publicly any little weakness, it can affect your team's ability to believe in you in the toughest.
I understand that he plays quarterback, he's the face of a franchise, but at the end of the day, I'll take all that away, he's still human. And there's a human element of this. And sometimes people think because we play this sport, because we're good at a sport, we don't have feelings, we don't have emotions. He's human. He's human. And think about this. It got so bad, his brother was dealing with something that he took his life. I would rather that share I mean, because we've seen, I mean, we've seen athletes take their lives, Skip, because they're dealing with things. And because they didn't feel or they felt, and maybe they felt the same way what you're feeling right now, but I can't share this. I can't share this. I can't deal with this. I don't want anyone to know what I'm going
talking
through.
about, you can share it internally. You can go see a psychiatrist if you need to. You can get all kinds of counseling.
Right.
You can share it with some of your closest teammates. Call up Zeke. Let's go sit and talk it through. I need to let you know what I was feeling. But we all went through COVID, some sort of depression.
But we handle things differently, Skip. Look, I'll give you a prime example. Okay, you can take boiling water. And now boiling water will harden the egg, it will soften the potato. Water, same thing. Boiling. Harden the egg, soften the potato. So you can't say because one way somebody handled it one way, that's the right way. Someone handled it the other way, that's the wrong way. That's the wrong way to look at it.
Just don't make me question whether you're made of the right stuff to stand up to that job, because that's a hard job he's got.
For me, Skip, he got there. You don't get to where losing a parent at the age at which he lost.
Sorry about that. But yeah, so as we can see, you know, they were dogging on, or at least Skip Bayless was dogging on Dak Prescott for coming out with being emotional and not knowing how to feel after his brother's passing. But just how can the media influence and shift perceptions? Well, not only can media influence perceptions of entertainment, politics, and world news, but it also shapes societal attitudes and perceptions that we see in sports. By covering athletes' mental health, media can either perpetuate stigma or foster an understanding, which highlights the urgent need for fair reporting. This is done through many ways, such as framing and agenda setting, normalization versus stigmatization, and its influence on public opinion. So first, framing and agenda setting. We're going to talk about framing first. Framing is how media presents a story and shapes how audiences perceive a certain issue, idea, or topic by emphasizing certain aspects over others. So positive framing. A media outlet might portray mental health and sports positively by highlighting, you know, an athlete's resilience when faced with adversity. So in this one by the Washington Post, this is an example of positive framing. In Naomi Osaka's withdrawal, some see a wake-up call for sports that neglect mental health. This one's not dogging on her for coming out about mental health. This one's, you know, being kind of uplifting. It's kind of like, hey, well, maybe we should take some time to think, and it's sort of like a wake-up call to talk and think about mental health. On the other side, though, negative framing might look like this. Naomi Osaka is just another hypocritical athlete wanting things done on only her terms. Naomi Osaka tried to say she struggles with the spotlight that comes with being a star athlete, but it turns out it's really about dictating the terms to embrace stardom. And stuff. But now, agenda setting. Agenda setting is the idea that media has the power to grab people's attention and focus it on certain things. It's simple. Choosing certain issues and making them get reported on constantly will influence what society recognizes as important. Now we're going to take a look at normalization versus stigmatization. Normalization, there you go, in mental health media is when media coverage that presents mental health concerns as legitimate and real issues that anyone can relate to, especially athletes. Throughout this type of coverage, empathy and understanding will be encouraged, which helps allow the topic of mental health to slowly become more and more destigmatized. So some examples here are DeMar DeRozan, mental health's unsung hero. NBA star Paul George, I needed help with my mental health. You can find help too. And I can never say thank you enough. How Kevin Love's openness about mental health changed lives. Now on the flip side, stigmatization in mental health media. It's when the media treats mental health as a sign of weakness, and it reinforces negative stereotypes and discourages any open dialogue for mental health. Typically, with these stigmas, They frame athletes and their inability to handle pressure or letting fans and teammates down, which is just a completely outdated idea surrounding toughness and resilience. So let's take a look at this one. Simone Biles is no hero. She is a quitter. This is a great example of this, the way that Skip Bayless was talking about it. You have to be a leader, you can't have feelings, things like that. And with Piers Morgan claiming that Simone Biles let her country down after she pulled out of the Olympics in 2020, and then calling her selfish as well. For our first case study, we're going to be talking about Simone Biles, a highly accomplished USA gymnast. Simone Biles transformed the conversation around mental health in 2020 after she withdrew herself from many events in the Tokyo Olympics due to mental health concerns at the time. Simone Biles experienced the twisties, which could be triggered by stress, and it's when an athlete feels lost in the air while doing a trick. She explained that her body and her mind were not in sync, and so she just ended up stepping away from everything in general. Soon she was met with, abundance of support and backlash, but we're going to take a look at the backlash first, okay? Ben Mahler from the Ben Mahler Show on Fox Sports Radio said, "We know a quitter when we see one, and right now the biggest quitter in sports is Simone Biles. She raised the white flag. I'm going to explain this to you like you're 5 years old. The going got tough here, and she tossed him the sponge. You can spin all you want, but there are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They have a saying in the military, when you do something like this, it's called going AWOL. Simone Biles went AWOL. I'm not gonna read the rest, but you get a basic understanding of how it is, But Charlie Kirk, an American political activist, not even in the sports world, ended up saying, "We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. If she's got all these mental health problems, just don't show up. She's probably the greatest gymnast of all time. She's also very selfish. She's immature, and she's a shame to the country. She's totally a sociopath. What kind of person skips the gold medal match? Who does that? It's a shame to the nation. You just gave a gift to the Russians." Pretty intense backlash. But, like I said, there was also an abundance of support. So the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee CEO, Sarah Hirschland, gave Simone Biles her flowers for making her mental wellness a priority over everything else. And then the USA Gymnastics Women's Vice President, Annie Heffernan, deemed her decision incredibly selfless. And among those, there was a bunch of celebrities that were also vouching for her and things like that. But she was widely regarded as a trailblazer by many, as she ended up leading other athletes, Naomi Osaka, to be the most notable, and we're also going to talk about her later, to share their own experiences. This caused media outlets to further address mental health struggles in sports and find or create resources to fight the battle that mental health weighs on several athletes. For our next case study, we're going to be talking about the athlete who I think is the GOAT, Michael Phelps. USA swimmer Michael Phelps is the greatest Olympian of all time with 23 gold medals. After the Olympic Games in 2012, Michael Phelps did not want to be alive anymore. For his story, he had an interview with senior political commentator David Axelrod in 2018, and he talked about his trials with depression dating back to his first Olympic Games in 2004. And then Michael Phelps is charged with a DUI that year, and Michael Phelps is caught on camera smoking from a bong in 2008. So this is mugshot, picture of him smoking from a bong. He implied that drugs were the thing keeping him away from what he was running from. His accomplishments were not satisfying him at all, and his hardest fall was in 2012. It was at that point that 28 Olympic medal holder Michael Phelps found himself in his room for about 5 days, not eating and not wanting to be alive. After this interview was released, he was highly praised for his bravery in telling the world about his feelings surrounding his mental health. Michael Phelps found a way out of his slump through therapy and simply talking about his problems out loud. You know, media outlet framing of this story was completely positive. I don't think I saw one single bad article, actually. And he was also awarded the Morton E. Ruderman Award, which is just, I mean, it sounds like a really good thing, you know, for advocacy of his own mental health and people with disabilities. And also, fun fact, Michael Phelps has ADHD. Pretty cool. So yeah. But yeah, impacts on society. Michael Phelps' goal with unveiling his depression and plans to end his life at a certain point in his career was to show people that even somebody like him, a champion, potentially the GOAT, they all have issues too. The news media did a great job in further helping him reach that goal by framing their articles about the story in a positive light. You know, since there was, I personally didn't see a single bad article. So I mean, they did their job by framing it in a positive light, and fans of sports and mental health all around the world were able to witness his bravery and applaud Michael. For our last case study, we're going to be talking about Naomi Osaka, who is a rising star. She announced her withdrawal from the 2021 French Open due to mental health reasons and struggles with media journalism themselves. Compared to Simone Biles and compared to Michael Phelps, Naomi Osaka was not only having mental health issues with like depression and things like that, but she was also struggling with media journalists themselves, with press conferences and things like that. And we'll see more right now. Naomi Osaka was not new to mental health issues, like I said. She had been facing depression since 2018 after her first major tournament win. And then after her announcement to drop out of the Open in 2021, she was met with both support and backlash, even some from respected athletes like Steph Curry, saying you shouldn't ever have to make a decision like this, but so damn impressive taking the high road when the powers that be don't protect their own. Billie Jean King, who is a women's tennis legend, she said, "It's incredibly brave that Naomi Osaka has revealed her truth about her struggle with depression. Right now, the important thing is that we give her the space and time she needs. We wish her well." So pretty good support, you know. But everything has an opposite side. And so we see here, Piers Morgan, a British television personality, calling Osaka a narcissist and the world's sports most petulant little madam, which I don't know what that really means, but it's not good. But also a well-accomplished women's tennis player, Martina Navratilova, says that it's not a mental health issue. She's a pro. You sign up for this. You just got to women up. And this further, you know, enhances the stigmatization surrounding mental health, not only with Naomi Osaka, but with all athletes. It's like you sign up for it. It's not a mental health issue. You're looking for attention, things like that. And that's not really what it is, you know. Like we all might be familiar with, tennis is a nationally viewed sport. And so the news was framed from many different media outlets in all different ways. And the topic of mental health was brought into light, encouraging athletes and sports organizations to re-examine the way that they treat mental health in the world of sports. Like Simone Biles, I would say she's also a trailblazer in that way. What can the media do? The media should learn how to avoid the use of sensationalizing stories, so not using buzzwords, not being over dramatic with the stories. They should also help encourage dialogue. They should allow players to become more vulnerable with these things. They should deliver better research and journalism, I think a lot of the times these journalists and writers and media hosts and things like that, they need to do better research. They're assuming things. They're talking too fast, or talking too soon, if anything. They should also be willing to balance coverage to avoid this agenda setting idea and write with no bias, keep a neutral ground. And in that, they need to be fair, but also have sympathy and empathy for who they're talking about. By doing these things, media outlets could foster greater dialogue for mental health and athletes that struggle with theirs on a daily basis. So when it comes down to it, athletes are just like us in a lot of different ways. They're human, and mental health in sports has come a long way, as we saw. And as fans, society, and media, we have a significant role to play. That is to foster a culture that recognizes athletes as whole individuals. Looking at the case studies and examples of some of our favorite athletes, it is evident that we are headed in a greater direction with regards to mental health in sports. Let's prioritize mental health and let's change the stigma. All right, thank you guys for attending this presentation.
Why do you think commentators don't like when athletes post about having mental health and things like that?
That's a good question. I think these commentators see athletes as these professionals, and at times they might see them as like robots and like they can't have feelings and all that stuff. They might also see it like that because of the way that they were raised, the way that they might have been treated by their parents, things like that. Yeah.
Do you agree with athletes stepping down when it comes to a big event coming up due to their mental health?
That one's kind of iffy, because if it's a genuine concern for their overall well-being, I agree with allowing them to step away from the game for a little bit. I think there should be resources and programs in place for things like that. I think sports teams and like the NBA, MLB, NFL, they should have ways to go about things like that. But at the same time, these athletes do get paid a lot of money. These athletes do have a lot of people depending on them. These athletes do have a lot of fans going to these games, buying tickets and going to see, LeBron James. And LeBron James doesn't show up because he's tired, and he's not, I don't know, it's a little iffy to me at times. But I mean, if it's a genuine problem and they have a risk of getting injured, they have a risk of this and that, then yeah, of course, step away. But yeah, those are my references. Yep.